Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Ashley Piche, I'll Give a Reflection, and much more. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight, our guest is Ashley Piche. She is the Executive Director of Creatio. They lead excursions, mission trips, pilgrimages, sometimes out into the wild and beautiful parts of nature, and help people to experience God's first word to us, the book of nature.
There's a lot of hungry people out there looking for God, looking for truth, and they want to know, and they want to be able to connect, and this is a way for those who are in discernment or seeking to really encounter something very adventurous. So we're now going to a reflection with Father Mark.
From the book of Genesis, we're told that God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Genesis chapter 1, verse 9. We're told that several times, that God saw that it was good. It's really an amazing statement. The infinite, all-powerful God does this work of creation, and he acknowledges its goodness. So we too, made in his image and likeness, share in that delight and that acknowledgement that we are called to recognize the goodness of creation, that God himself marvels at. It's there for us, it blesses us, and especially the beauty of the natural world has a certain pride of place, I think, in speaking to us and nurturing us to help us flourish as human beings, to experience that beauty. We can look at the splendor of a thing, the colors. We're here on an autumn fall day and we see different colors. We can look at the proportion or the harmony, the way things interact, how the plants grow together, and even how the animals interact, in the woods. It speaks of a harmony of nature. And we can see how these things fulfill their ends, their perfection. Thomas Aquinas called it its integrity. That St. Francis would praise the obedience of the things God created. They fulfill God's plan, his will, perfectly. And we can marvel at that thing. It can please us. Thomas Aquinas said that beauty is that which pleases when seen or heard. And God has given us this great beauty. It's meant to speak with us, to speak to us, to comfort us, to be a place that we can flourish as human beings. I remember going to Oregon and going to Crater Lake. And it's this collapsed volcano. It's filled with water. It's the most beautiful cobalt blue you've ever seen. Mesmerizing. You just look into it and it just gives you pause. It lifts you up. Maybe takes you out of the ordinary, the mundane. God's nature speaks to us, nurtures us, and helps us to flourish as human beings.
Well, Ashley, welcome to Life on the Rock.
Thank you so much.
And you're the executive director of a group called Creatio.
That's right.
Which kind of works with evangelizing to the youth and bringing them to nature and exploring beauty and all that. Mm-hmm. But can you tell us a little bit about Creatio and what it's all about?
Sure. So Creatio is a small apostolate in Denver, and our mission is to lead all people to encounter the beauty of creation and the Creator. Yeah. And so we are focused on the young adult kind of generation population from 18 to 35. So we do some work with colleges and then work with younger adults, where we give young adults the opportunity to unplug from their everyday life.
That's important.
And plug in, yes, and plug into the reality of creation. Yeah. And so we do pilgrimages, we'll do mission trips in pretty remote, wild, beautiful places. Wow. And we also do adventure trips. We do a lot of backpacking, backcountry hut trips, and a lot of outdoor skills kind of oriented trips that we do with young adults for anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. And we have a group of young missionaries that lead those trips that are outdoor guides, but also Catholic missionaries.
Okay.
And we focus on just having those deeper conversations around connecting to reality in a world or at a time when it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah. What's a little bit about the history of Creatio? How did it get started?
Sure. It got started by running trips. And so about 10 years ago, Creatio's first trips were with a group of students at CU Boulder.
Okay.
And so non-Catholics, but interested in doing adventurous things and serving mission. And so did a couple of mission trips, backcountry trips, and it grew from there. And so it's been pretty organic growth. I would say over the past probably 5 years, with our previous executive director, have gotten organized into a little bit of a nonprofit that does lead these things more often, and have recruited our missionary guides. So we have a missionary guide program now, and we will have 12 people on staff in the fall, growing from a couple of people about 10 years ago that were leading some trips for students.
How did you hear about it? How did you get involved with Creatio?
Sure. So I was baptized 3 years ago, so I'm a new Catholic.
Oh, okay.
And I was always very mission-driven in my career. So I worked in education prior to working with Creatio, and education's been a very important thing for my family and my own story, and wanted to share that with others. And so worked in particularly low-income areas across the country, and providing educational opportunities for students. And as I was converting, so as I converted to Catholicism, my own personal mission shifted a little bit. Okay. Recognized that, I wanted to be spending my time sharing the truth with my students, and that was a more important thing. And so I was looking for ways to join the church and work for the church as my own personal mission shifted. And a parishioner at my church is a board member at Creatio, and mentioned they were looking for someone to join the team, and was great. Just fortunate enough to have that work out. And so left my career, my 15-year career in education, and have joined this little apostolate, and it's been the best year. So I'm super grateful.
So you're originally from the Washington, D.C. area.
That's right.
You've moved out to around Denver, or in Denver, to work with Creatio. And but I wanted to ask you, as a convert, what drew you to the faith? What kind of led you in that direction?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. So we moved to, my husband and I and our 2 kids moved to Colorado 7 years ago because we were drawn to nature, right? So we wanted to be near the mountains. We're all snowboarders, and so we knew that we felt at peace when we were in nature, and had curiosities around that. I also had just questions and curiosities around suffering, and so what it means to suffer, why do we suffer, how do you suffer well, and was going through, I would say, probably from 10 to about 5 years ago, was going through a period in my own personal life of a lot of suffering, both with our children who were very sick when they were born. They were born very early, have twins, and also just relationship with my family. And so I had questions about that, and so started reading C.S. Lewis and looking to philosophy for answers on that. And we just happened to move. When we moved to Colorado, happened to move 2 blocks away from a Catholic church, and stumbled in every once in a while. My husband was born Catholic, but wasn't practicing, and I wasn't Catholic. But we would go to church every once in a while, and just found it to be a really welcoming place. So the pastor there was very open to answering questions. The community there was very strong, and decided to go through RCIA without necessarily thinking I would join the church. But through that process, learned a lot about the faith, as does my husband, and ended up being baptized 3 years ago.
I think the beauty about nature, though, it allows you to contemplate and really kind of speak heart to heart with God and get away from all the noise in the world.
That's right.
And imagine in D.C. or any city, there's a lot.
That's right. That's right.
Not just honking cars and everything, and just the constant movement that you encounter in the city and all that. But it's really be grounded in prayer, I think. And I was just kind of curious even about those who are young. Do you see a lot of seekers, just people that maybe are uncertain about life or really trying to find out what's out there in the world?
Yes, we actually talk about seekers a lot. So that's who we target, really. And we create experiences for all kinds of young people. from Catholic groups at colleges to seekers who are, stumbled across our website and would have gone with, REI or Outward Bound, but found Creatio and just went with us.
Yeah.
So yes, we find a lot of people are seeking something, right? So I mentioned I moved to Denver 7 years ago because I felt at peace in nature. I didn't know why, but I knew I was looking for something and felt at peace when I was in nature. The outdoor industry is growing a lot. It has a lot of people that are finding something in creation, and we're trying to reach out to those people and say there's something deeper, right? So we want to be the alternative to the yoga retreat or the backpacking trip where you just learn about skills. We want to teach you outdoor skills, but then also, have deeper conversations around why we are drawn to nature and how we can, see the nature of our Creator.
Yeah. And out of that group of 18 and 35, is the most that come to Creatio, are they college students?
No, we span that range really, and even older than that too. And I'm older than 35, and I go on all of our trips. So we say we focus on 18 to 35 when we talk about who we're really reaching out to and targeting. But we have families come with us who have kids who are high school or younger. We do some high school groups in Denver, and then we have. We had someone actually last summer who was 78 years old come into our office and wanted to come on a trip with us, which was amazing. So we're open to everyone for sure. But our trips are demanding. So that's one thing, is that we really try to combine beauty with suffering. And so put people in an environment where they can kind of lean on the community and build that community quickly. And then we can have those deeper conversations. And so our pilgrimages, even though we do some that that you can, other organizations might do, like Camino to Santiago is a very popular one. We are really focused on the community we build along the way, and they're pretty primitive in the way we go about it, so that we can lean on each other and find that combination of beauty and suffering. So we see that we mostly do hit that 18 to 35 range, but we're open to everyone.
Okay. Well, we have to go to a break, but whenever we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the excursions and the mission trip and pilgrimages.
That's great.
Okay. Well, Ashley, when you're working with Creatio and you're going on these mission trips and or an excursion, what do you mean by going into like a deeper conversation? What do you teach them?
Yeah. So we have a missionary guide program. So we have a group of missionaries that are currently from 22 to 30 years old. So they are Catholic missionaries that are with us for 2 years. And we put a lot of effort into helping them to be able to go deeper in their own faith, go deeper as a community, and then be able to reach out from there. And so we like this term now. We are building an army of contemplatives, right? So an army of young people who are thinking really deeply about their own faith, about the Creator, and able to engage in conversation with others easily. And we say that we design our trips that we kind of facilitate a full experience, right? So we take people into beautiful places they couldn't reach on their own. We have a little suffering on our trips, whether it's backpacking or pilgrimage, so that we have to lean on each other. And then we have a group of curious Catholic missionaries that are fully, immersed in the Catholic worldview and also Catholic social teaching, so can kind of see that comparison between the Catholic, theology of creation versus what we hear outside of the church, and can engage in conversation in a welcoming way. And so our primary way of engaging with people in conversation is just to be open, welcoming, approachable Catholics who are curious about others who are in our same generation and how we're answering those bigger questions. And we say too that we have set talks that we do. So we'll do a reflection on beauty. We'll do a reflection on suffering. We do a reflection on pilgrimage and things that are relevant to the activities that we're experiencing. But really, it's nature that evangelizes, right? So we find that when we put people in the right situation and we give time for reflection, and you have the chance to to wake up at 4 a.m. and climb a 14er in the dark, and then you're at, it's light time when you're at the top. That in and of itself evangelizes and gets people into this more perspective, reflective space that we can then meet them in and push from there.
And with the Catholic social teaching, I guess you go into the care of God's creation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do talk a lot about care for creation and what it means to do that as a Catholic, and do that while really thinking about the relationships, right? The relationships of humans and creation. And so some of our mission trips are based around kind of that care for creation balance. And so one of our former mission trips was to build clean cook stoves in Peru.
Okay.
Right. So we were serving the people and serving a real need there. So it was a mission trip and a beautiful spot, but also was restoring that relationship between that community and the land that they were on. Right. So we focus on that kind of the action of what does it look like to care for creation. We partner with other organizations that are non-Catholic, but also have an environmental push, and we try to live in that common space to say, yes, we should care for creation, and this is why. And so we do talk about that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess in Peru, you're in the mountains, or is it?
That's right.
Kind of a rugged area? Or?
Yes. Yeah. Right. And a lot of isolated communities that we worked with. That's great.
Now with the trips, those are year round, and how many are roughly given in a year?
Yeah, so the year prior to COVID, so 2019, we were between 40 and 44 trips a year.
Oh, wow.
And then we're back up to that this year. We're at around 36 right now scheduled for 2022. So we had a lull in between 2022 and 2019. We did a lot of domestic trips during that time, but we're now back. We have two groups that just finished the Camino, one group that was in Costa Rica. We have a group going to Galapagos in a couple of weeks, so we're busy again, which is great.
And these trips are anywhere from about 3 to 2 weeks long?
They're from 3 days to 2 weeks long.
3 days, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So our shortest paid experiences are the 3-day backpacking trips that we do in Colorado. But we also do a lot of community building just in Denver and in Colorado. So we have a lot of like 1-day hiking trips that we do with the community there that anyone's welcome to join if they're ever in Colorado with us. We do overnight camping trips that you just hang out and we'll teach a skill overnight, and these happen at least once a month, a couple times a month in the summertime. But our bigger paid experiences are from 3 days to about 2 weeks.
And you're also a snowboarder. So is there a snowboarding trip? Is there?
There is,
yes. One of those?
Yes, so we have backcountry hut trips in the wintertime. And so there is this system of huts, which are just these beautiful cabins in the middle of the Colorado wilderness that you can hike to in the summertime and skin to or ski to in the wintertime. And so we do that. And I, this year, started split boarding, which is where you can split your snowboard in half and ski up the mountain and then put it together and snowboard down, which is pretty fun.
And also there's, with the Camino, you can do variations or links,
That's
and you're also going to be joining the Camino, walking the Camino.
That's right. So our goal is to get the entire family on the Camino next spring. So my kids will be 9 years old then. I have 9-year-old twins.
Okay.
That's probably as young as you want to be walking the Camino. So we'll see if we can do it. But we'll do a 2-week portion of it, which is about half of the full walk from France all the way down to Spain.
That's pretty cool. And you also do trips out to Assisi. I thought
That's right.
That was interesting.
Yes.
And have you ever been out there? Or?
I have not personally, no. So I have not. We are leading a trip there though. In 3 weeks, actually, we'll have a group that's going out to Assisi to do a pilgrimage there. That's going to be about 2 weeks long. It's
a great place to pray and gain peace.
That's right.
And really, I think just find that relationship with God is. In the spirit of St. Francis. So that's a real beautiful thing to be able to bring young people into that environment, and because not everybody gets to go, but I think that's real powerful.
That's right.
Especially in our world today, that can be quite worldly and everything, but just to get back to the roots of everything.
That's right. And we do focus a lot on accessibility, now that you mentioned it, so that everyone can go, right? So we have scholarships available for people. And our pricing is as accessible as we can make it. We do a lot of fundraising. Our missionaries are fully support raised, so they raise their own salaries. And we try to raise enough funds such that we can have prices that make it so that anybody can go on these experiences, because we think it's very important.
Yeah. And where can we learn more about Creatio?
Yeah, so we are online, so creatio.org. And then we also we're on social media, so Creatio_Inc. Is our Instagram handle, so you can check us out there. But also just send an email, so info@creatio.org is you can send any questions, and we'll reach out to you. And we're very community-based, so we'd love to chat and see if we could work together in some way.
Well, Ashley, thank you for being on Life on the Rock, and God bless you in the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love Ashley's energy, enthusiasm, and just the variety of experiences they offer.
Yeah.
You know, Colorado 3-day trips and even bigger trips around the world. It's quite a choice you have.
I think the wilderness of Colorado to the jungles of South America to the, plains of Spain and all that to walk. There's a wide variety, and it's all different, and you don't really know what all you will encounter. And also what I thought was real interesting, it's kind of year-round. You can kind of pick and discern. It's to really encounter nature. If you want to endure the heat, do something in the summer, or in the winter, do something that's going to be challenging. And I think that's something that's always good for us, is to be challenged.
Right, I love those themes of pilgrimage. I just experienced that on a recent trip of mine, just to get out of your usual routine, and it gets you. I think it feeds and fuels the contemplative dimension of life. That we can take a break from the usual that we're maybe tired of, and open ourselves up to a new experience of God. Nature, you see something beautiful, you have some time for reflection, good talks, and maybe sharing. That's a formula for discovery.
And I think too, just kind of unplugging from the world and the distractions. And you hear studies about how little, kids and young people are even going outside today. But to really encounter and build that community, to have that sense of community with others. And also it's, you're encountering people of different faiths, of different walks of life. And I think that kind of just strengthens that humanity aspect too, that we relate to each other as brothers and sisters because we're kind of enduring the same trials and kind of going through the same things. So I think it's a good way to also build that fraternal charity that we all need in life.
It'd be hard to travel with people for a couple weeks and not start sharing and reflecting together on different themes. And of course, the good stewardship that we're called to as Christians, as Catholics, and that's a good point to reflect on. And experience in nature reminds us of how precious, beautiful, and fragile it can be, that we have to protect this.
Yeah. And it's changing always around us, and especially here in America, things are always being developed, and we see what was once something very beautiful just kind of wiped out,
Yeah,
You
you're talking about
here,
a local situation.
You see it in the local to where back home to where you're from, and there's just a lot of growth. But we also need to build that growth of the interior life as well, in that contemplative dimension.
Yeah, so we'd like to send you into the vineyard with a reflection on that theme, that nature evangelizes. It speaks to us of God's power, His majesty, His beauty, and calls to us to go deeper, to find Him, to contemplate Him. And that nature helps us find that stillness, that we can seek God and hear His voice, get out of maybe the rat race a little bit, and pay attention to God. So we'll send you into that vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.
World and all it offers me, it seduced me more than once and brought me to my knees, captivated in my mind and praying for release. Well, I want to get washed in the water We're gonna walk down to the Jordan. We're gonna walk down to the Jordan. We're gonna walk down to the Jordan just like Jesus did. Yeah, we're gonna walk down to the Jordan. We're gonna walk down to the Jordan. We're gonna walk down to the Jordan just like Jesus did. Just like Jesus did. Well, surprise, surprise, I fell again.